What's up? This is Jordan Gray from Half Lit and DopelivenTV.
Hey, this your boy Don Ritchie representing the Midwest 219 Stand Up.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Lamar Tate.
This is your girl, Monifa.
Hey, what up? It's your man Dave Hollister from Blackstreet.
You know what this is right here. It's Trigger Trench in the building.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This your boy Jason Weaver. And whenever I'm back home in the shop, I'm checking out Dope Living TV.
Hey, it's your girl Adina Howard, and you're watching Dope Living TV, live with Greg Gray and the crew.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Greg Gray. This is Dope Living TV Live. Started off, the views that are expressed on this Dope Living TV Live are not necessarily the views of Dope Living TV or its affiliates. That's the disclaimer. That's what we stand by. So y'all better know. We're gonna say what we're gonna say, but don't pay too much attention to it. All right. But you gotta pay attention to the guests we got today. All right. We got a fantastic guest today. And I was talking to him earlier in the before the show. And, even though we had the lawyer lady on before, this is the actual first time that we've had an actual lawyer on the show. Not one of the fake lawyers or some of the fake people that come on Dope Living TV Live, all right? I'm not going to name any names or occupations or fake occupations anyway. But if you're a life coach, know about life, know how to coach, all right? That's all I'm saying, all right? We got a real one. All right, let's start it off, okay? What's going on, Gina?
You a mess.
I had to put it.
So they fake.
How many times, Gina, have we come on? Have we had? We all geeked up for a guest, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they said they do.
I don't want to count it. I run out of fingers.
You know what I'm saying? So but we got an attorney on here who actually has the ESQ behind his name. Okay,
right.
Which certifies him.
Right, and we're gonna allow the audience to ask general questions that he can answer, because I know in my head a lot of times I'll be like, "What is corpus habeas?"
and little Craig, I hope the thugs are watching too. Hey man, if I kill somebody in Idaho, man, and I ran over to California, you think they still can get me? And if they did get me, will it be less time in California as it would be in, stupid stuff like that?
No, please don't come on like that. Because now we know where you're at.
Let's get our birthday wishes up. He said he wasn't coming on, but he's here.
Oh, happy birthday, Mo! Happy birthday to you.
You don't look a day older than you did yesterday, bro.
I agree. I agree.
But hey, today, man, happy birthday to you, bro. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I thought you were gonna be here, but we need you. We good. Appreciate you. So today we have a gentleman who he started his law career after he graduated FAMU, Florida A&M, right. And he spent 4 years as a federal judicial law clerk in the Middle District of Florida, all the way down the East Coast, all right? Then he moved into private practice and later took on the role of assistant federal defender in the Tampa Division, practicing federal criminal law. And right now, currently, he's in practice. He's in private practice, focusing on civil litigation. So y'all got questions. Y'all got questions. He got answers.
Can I jaywalk on Fifth Avenue?
So you can jaywalk on Fifth Avenue with one shoe on. All right. You know what I'm saying? Zell, you got any questions?
Can I pimp without getting arrested?
That's Zell across the corner, right? There he is. Okay.
Zell got a hat. Zell behind the black curtain.
Yeah. Zell, you streaming funny today, man. What's going on, bro? Log off.
Try it again, Zell. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You got the pixel going on, though. I don't know about that.
But we have attorney Percy King. Percy King is his name, and he's going to give us, his story as well as answer any questions that we have from the panel as well as from you, the audience. So while we're here, and while Zell's getting a chance to get his feed correct, let's bring attorney Percy King on. Welcome, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
Welcome.
All right.
And thank you for hanging out with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
What's up, Zell?
Hello. How are you all?
You got it right now, Zell. You got it right.
Yeah, I've been having internet problems. Sorry about that. How's everyone doing?
Great.
You gonna have problems. You are the actor of the field. You can't have internet problems at all. You can't do that.
Ever.
Tell Comcast that.
Yeah, I know, right? Crimecast. I say what's up to my fella.
Hey, Marcy. Good to see you.
Hello.
It is Comcast, Zell, because I was having trouble getting on.
I did too.
Oh.
See?
That's
he
called
blamed
crime.
me.
That's Crimecast. I should put you all on the same level.
I'm AT&T fiber.
Mostly, I ain't had no problems.
We got attorney Percy King on here today. Again, welcome to the show, sir. And I don't know, man. It's this is going to be a good one because we're going to get some questions answered that people probably would love to know and probably are afraid to ask. All right. We probably gonna get some anonymous people coming in here, and some people probably gonna text me with questions, all right, because they don't want to be known. So if I said five to the field, over there on Fifth Avenue, or can I run, and they catch me and they say it was me, but it really wasn't me, but I still got the gasoline in my pocket.
Before we get started, I definitely have to share this because I got that speeding ticket. Coming from Florida, right? I got that speed ticket coming from Florida, right? So, I'm at the deadline where I got to pay this ticket, and I got it right at the last minute. So I told Robert, I said, I might have warrants. We can't go to Florida anymore. We gotta stay away from the state of Florida because I don't want to go out there. And he said, but I can't be telling my friends, man, I can't go to Florida because my woman got warrants. Yes, you can.
Pay a ticket.
I'm gonna answer this one for you, Attorney King.
Yeah.
Just pay the ticket.
I paid the ticket.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Attorney King, what as a young person, and you and I kind of discussed this earlier, what made you want to go into law?
That's actually kind of a short story. In Gary, when I was younger, I was actually part of this program. I want to say it was like Junior Patrol or something like that. And what they did was they actually had us to go to court, and we met a couple of lawyers. We sat in the jury box, and they had like a mock trial. And I can tell you, one of the lawyers I had known since I was a kid, because her uncle used to date my mom. And one of the lawyers is the former mayor of Gary, Karen Freeman Wilson. So I've known her since I was a young kid. I remember when she graduated from Harvard. But from then on, I kind of wanted to do it, but then I started watching shows on TV, the practice and stuff like that. And although law is very different than that, I kind of wanted to do it. But I ended up going into medicine instead, in nuclear medicine, and it took a while for me to get to law from there.
So medicine to law. I don't understand the transition.
But wait, you were in nuclear medicine for a very long time.
Yeah. I spent a little over 18 years in nuclear medicine before I went back to law school. Well, here's the thing. I had a daughter when I was 24, so having to pay child support in nuclear medicine, I was making like $102,000 a year back in 1993.
Good
So,
money.
I actually had to ask her mom, because she wasn't going to get the same amount of child support, if I could go back to school. And her mom said, "Oh yeah, you should have done it a long time ago," because she had known that, medicine was killing me, because it was very different than it was when I first started. It was kind of like, working at a factory where, people come in and then you had to do all these different things real quickly, and it just wasn't fun for me anymore. So I was able to go back to school. I was 39 when I went back to law school.
See, message, y'all. You're never too old to go back. Never too old to learn something new. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, we do better too. The older people at the law school did better. I graduated second in my class. I ended up getting, you get book awards for the highest grade in the class, and I got the book award for almost 25% of my classes. And I graduated a semester early. I mean, law review, moot court, all those different things. I even won a national award through the National Black Law School Association. I was third in the nation for most outstanding student. So I went there. If I was going to give up that money, I was going to, basically do the damn thing.
That's right.
Tell us what's nuclear medicine, though.
I was just going to ask that for you, Jim.
Okay.
Put it in a private check.
All right. There's a lot of things that we do. I end up doing some teaching too, but nuclear pharmacy, we use radioactive materials. It's mostly diagnostic, but some of it is therapeutic. One of the things that we do is the prostate seed implants for prostate cancer. We're the ones who actually take those into surgery so the surgeon can put them in. We do the radioactive iodine for hyperthyroidism. We do lymphatic mapping for breast cancer patients. We'll give an injection right up under the nipple, then take imaging, because what we're looking for is how the breast drain, because that's how we can determine and tell the surgeon which nodes to take out, so they don't have to strip all of them out. They take the ones that drain from the breast, and therefore they kind of know where the cancer is supposed to go. Nuclear medicine stress test, where you do the radioactive injection before and after. You can tell if you have any, blocked arteries in your heart, if you have heart problems. We do the brain death scans. There's probably about 60 different diagnostic tests that we did, and several different therapies, and probably about 4 different types of surgeries that we were in on. And I worked at teaching hospitals. I was talking to Greg early, and I was explaining that I actually did my clinicals at William Beaumont Hospital in Royal Oak, Michigan, not too far from where he's from. And it was a quick story. I was telling him that, I met a doctor when I was there before he did the first assisted suicide. It was Dr. Kevorkian. And I could talk to him. And then I saw him on the news, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. But he was a nice guy.
Wow.
Yeah, see, but the news portrayed him to be a different type of guy. Attorney King had a chance to talk with him.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, anything else about that nuclear medicine? Because I kind of,
That seemed like you were in a lucrative field already.
Okay. Just because you can make some money at something doesn't mean that it makes you happy. And it was so easy for me after a while that it just wasn't what I wanted anymore. And you also no longer got a chance to really deal with the patients the way that I thought that you should, because it was a factory now. They came in, because when I first started, we got a chance to talk to them. We got a chance to explain things, because just like you, they have no idea what's going on. I'm telling them I'm about to inject them with something radioactive, and they have no damn idea what I'm actually, about to do. And you don't really get a chance to tell them that much, and, nobody's necessarily happy, but then the hospitals expect you to, make people happy, and it's not Burger King. You just can't do that. So, I mean, I wanted to be a lawyer, and, got a chance to do it.
Now you're from Gary, right?
Yes, I graduated from Gary Westside in 1988.
I just had to throw that in there, y'all. Make sure everybody knows my alma mater. My alma mater. I'm not saying that everybody else did, but still, majority of people on here from Westside. Attorney King.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Westside. What type of law do you practice, and what helped you determine why you would decide to practice that type of law?
Okay. I actually practice a few different things, and I have practiced a few different things. I kind of have to explain to you what the federal clerkship is about, that Greg was saying. Most people don't know that the federal judges don't actually write the orders. They all have either two federal law clerks and a judicial assistant, or three federal law clerks. That includes the United States Supreme Court. They're lawyers who actually research and write the opinions for them. They're the judges' opinions. The judges go through them once they're written, and they determine what they need to have changed or whatever. So what that means is that we have to know the law like the court. So you have to really know. So the federal law clerks, it's really hard to get these. And we're the ones that all the, AM, 100, the largest firms want, afterwards, because we know the law. And most of us are the ones who end up federal judges as well. So if you hear somebody say, oh, they clerked for justice so-and-so, they clerked for this person, that means they had a job like I did. And like we would read approximately 5,000 pages a month, going through case, because with my judge, he had two, so I had half the docket. So half the docket was mine. So that means that all the cases that came in, I had to go through them and do all the different things for all the orders for everything. So you're reading and you're reading and you're reading and you're reading, and then you research and then you write the stuff. So I actually got my MBA while I was a federal law clerk, which is something that nobody really does. And I got that through FAMS because they had an online program, and it was like the third class, and I ended up graduating first. And my judge was like, how did you do that? Because he didn't, my work didn't slow down or anything like that. I just didn't do anything outside of that. I took Sunday for myself, but after work, I worked until like 1 o'clock in the morning, including on Saturdays, to get everything done. So the federal law clerk prepares you for determining what you want to do, because you do every type of case. Whatever is on your docket is what you do, from criminal law to intellectual property stuff. That's why the things that I decided that I wanted to do are the civil litigation part, personal injury, because I have the medical part of it, and personal injury makes the most money. Okay. And I also, the other civil litigation, I was an employment law fellow. So I do a lot of, and I have the MBA, so I do a lot of business and employment law. But the intellectual property stuff I do mostly is copyright and trademark things. And I also represent some smaller people for smaller contract disputes. I still do the federal criminal stuff because I did spend a little over 2 years as a federal assistant federal defender in the Tampa Division. And that's where I actually left to go back into private practice. Now, there, I had some interesting cases. Although I can't necessarily go into the things, I can tell you that I've had some things that were on the news nationally. If you remember when Steve Bannon was indicted for the Build a Wall thing, who was Trump's, he was indicted with 3 other guys for the Build a Wall thing. Now, wherever you are arrested for a federal indictment, you have to go in front of a federal magistrate. His best friend got arrested in Sarasota. I was on duty that day. I had him. Wow. And just so you know, Bannon had like $5 million worth of bond. There's another gentleman who was a quadruple amputee. They took his yacht and they took a bunch of stuff from him. The other gentleman had $250,000 worth of bond. I got my guy out. There was no bond. So there was no actual bond conditions at all. The only thing he had was he couldn't have guns, and he had to stay in the Middle District of Florida. I've had some of the insurrectionists as well, because a lot of them live in Florida. I've had so many white supremacists down here. It was ridiculous. Had no idea that there were that many. Well, as a big black man, I come in and I explain to them my background, that I'm much smarter than everybody in the room. So therefore, if you be quiet, everything will be all right. And that's what normally happens. When you go in there, you kind of have to command. And I explained to them, listen, dude, I was second in my class. I did this as a federal law clerk. So when they look at me, they don't actually see a black man. They see this smart ass guy that's about to help them.
Won't be no.
No, and here's the thing. Being from Gary, my mom was like an assistant manager at the water company. She went through learn COBOL, all of different things. She was a smart lady. My dad owned businesses, and I was taught that you don't do a bad job no matter what the circumstances. If you take the job, you better do it right. So because of that, that's just kind of how I am. And no matter how much it will hurt me to, get somebody out of jail that, hates me, because I mean, I've had it to where the assistant U.S. attorney came and was like, hey, this guy's a super racist, and read some stuff to me that they had guns, said they wanted to kill N-words, but I still did the best I could to try to get them out. And they knew when I left, they were kind of happy I was leaving, because they say, we know that, we can't, kind of come in there and expect things when it comes to you, because, I made them work, because that was just it. So, because of that, yeah, I still do the federal criminal stuff, but the other things I do is that I am a licensed sports agent in Florida and North Dakota. Oh, that's another thing. I'm licensed in Florida and North Dakota. I plan on, because the NFL and Major League Baseball, they only take new agents and they have a class. They do it over the summers. So I missed out because I was just leaving the federal defender. So next year, I will likely be at least a Major League Baseball agent as well.
Wow.
Nice. All right.
That's what's up, man. Okay, that's the show. He answered all the questions.
All right.
Wow.
Wow.
I got a question for you though. What's your approach or your philosophy to winning or representing a case?
Well, here's the thing. Because I was with the federal court and I know what happens in the background, and I know what happens, how defenses act, and how, like, say, prosecutors act, and how just plaintiffs act when it comes to civil stuff. I look at things from the view of the court. So, like, if, let's say, there's a criminal case, there are elements in order to prove that crime. And I look to see how they can possibly prove those elements. I look for the bad things that, will mess up our case. And that's the first thing. And sometimes I really have to explain that to a client, because a client will get mad at me because they're like, are you the prosecutor or are you my lawyer? Because I'm like, no. I need to find out all this garbage, because if I don't know all this different stuff, I can do something with almost anything. But if I don't know what happened, it's going to basically make it so that I can't do my job. So I have to always ask them about all these things. They may not necessarily want to say anything about it, and you try to get them to not lie. And here's what I will tell you: all people lie. Whether it's a civil case, whether it's a criminal case, both sides. That's just how people are. And it doesn't mean that they're even bad people or anything like that. Sometimes they don't even really realize that they're lying, because people are so accustomed to not telling the full truth. So what I end up doing is trying to figure out what I need to work with, which is whatever the elements are, whether it's civil or criminal. They all have elements that need to be proven in order for a plaintiff to win their case, in order for the federal government or the state government to win the case. Then I look at what my possible defenses are to everything. And at that point in time, that's when I'll talk to the person and I can explain to them, listen, you screwed. This is what we need to do, and I'm honest with people, and I'm like, look, you may not want to hear this, but I'm going to try to explain to you this, that, and the other. And quite often, I actually do a PowerPoint presentation. If you really messed up and you really have no chance, I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and it's going to have the video evidence embedded in there, and I'm going to show them different things. So therefore, they know, listen, I'm not playing with you. I'm not trying to get you to take a deal, this, that, and the other. I'm trying to save you time on your life, because when you see all this different stuff, this is what they have. This is what the discovery shows. So this is what you need to do. I'm sorry. Nobody wants to go to jail, or nobody wants to lose money. But if you keep going down this path, this is what's going to happen. And I can't guarantee, I don't have a crystal ball, but look at this. So when you show it to somebody, it becomes self-evident. And, I've had people cry when they watched it, because they realize, oh, I am so screwed. And I'm like, Yeah, but I can, kind of do this for you because they don't really want to deal with me, because they know I'm gonna work them. So we might be able to get this. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ask for this, and I can't tell if I'm gonna get it. But if I get it, you need to be happy and a runaway slave day 13 with a full belly, and then just accept this.
Those are not words you want to hear from your attorney.
No.
Well, I mean that's kind of what you have to do, because what happens is that a lot of people will tell you what you want to hear because, well, some people are trying to milk you for money, this, that, and the other. But with me, in the first place, if I have you for a criminal case, you have to pay 100% up front, all of it, because you can't in Florida and in federal court as well. You're not getting out of the case. So basically, you're going to have to keep going if they don't have any money or not. And for the most part, the cheapest federal case for me is 6 figures.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at TV shows like Power and like Method Man came to them and said $500,000. Oh yeah, that's how it is. I mean, if you want somebody real, and I've had people say, oh well, he said he would do it for $2,000. I was like, oh, you're going to prison. Because there's nothing I can do for $2,000. Nothing.
Oh.
That's not even enough for a federal case. That's not even enough for me to appear at one hearing, because I have to do the background research and information. And for me, with my background, for federal criminal stuff, I mean $500 an hour, but it's not an hourly rate. It's just a set flat fee, but that doesn't normally include the trial. If you want a fee that includes the trial, let's just say you have, like a child porn case. We have a lot of child porn cases. Let's just say you have a child porn case. That's going to be at least $500,000, in order for something like that. And that's just, so in federal court, most people have CJA, which is Criminal Justice Act attorneys, which is either the federal defender or ones who are on the CJA panel, which I was before, and I'm going to get back on. That the federal government pays us, and there's a maximum amount, but you can get more if you go to trial, or if there's certain things. But it's only like 140 something an hour we get paid. I think it's 148 now. So, but if you take those cases, but I've had to explain to judges when I was assistant federal defender, because they look to see if you actually qualify in order to get free counsel. And I've had it to where the person had like $100,000 in equity in their house, and they had $50,000 in the bank. It's like the assistant U.S. attorney is like, oh, they can afford an attorney. It's like, nah, dude, I'd have charged them $500,000 up front for this. They don't have enough money. And they're like, what? Because the AUSAs don't know, because they've never been defense counsel, especially in private practice. So they have no idea how much it costs. And I have to explain to them, just the discovery, we'll get discovery, and the discovery may be a half a terabyte. Because there's all kind of videos, there'll be pages, and their stuff is hidden. So you may have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of discovery to go through. So if you have that amount, what does that say? At the very least, they're going to be charging at least $300 an hour. So yeah, what does that mean if they can't afford you? And that's the reason why it costs that much. And another thing, when it comes to federal cases, people don't understand that in state court, the police arrest somebody for something right away, and then prosecutors and police build a case afterwards. In the federal court, they will have watched your butt for years, and they will have seen you go from airport to airport, from country to country. They have a pole camera video that is taken 24 hours worth of video for 3 months. So there's thousands of hours worth of video, and they have all these people who have been watching you, and you have no idea. So they have their case made by the time they indict you. I've had to tell, clients, it's like, dude, I got the discovery, and it's, 550 gigabytes. And just so you know, they have been following you for 3 years. Okay. And they followed you when you went to this airport. They followed you when you went to that airport. Okay. There's a guy. Here's a picture of him. So you remember seeing that guy? Yeah. He talked to you. You had no idea he was a federal agent. All right. So now over here, they did this. They were at your mama's house. Okay. They even had this, and you have no idea they have all these different things. And then I sit in your lap, and they're just, some people start crying. But
I'm gonna lose. I'm going to
yeah,
jail.
well, no, I mean,
I'm going to
I
jail.
don't know. It's very different. So yeah, I mean, it's
Wow.
frustrating as well because a lot of the laws are pro government, and like the difference between like state criminal law and federal criminal law. In state criminal law, you get to depose people, all those different things. You get all this discovery. In federal criminal law, all they have to give you is stuff that's Brady material, which is exculpatory. Okay, they don't have to tell you about their star witnesses. They don't have to tell you until right before trial. Okay,
Mm.
and they don't even have to give you unless they're statements that are your client statements or the statements of a co-defendant. They don't have to give you those things and until after they have already testified. So now they give it to you right after they testify, and then all of a sudden, you're going to cross-examine them the next day. So overnight, you have to try to go through all this different stuff. So it's so far skewed against you. In federal court, 98% of the federal crimes that are indicted take pleas, 98%. Okay. Out of the 2% that go to trial, the federal government wins like 80 something percent. So what does that mean? They have a 99 point something percent
Wow.
conviction rate.
Gee.
Wow.
And a lot of folks don't know that. And you have to do 85% of the time.
So what about business? Have you ever did business?
Well, no, I do civil litigation, business things. I've done church cases. I have represented somebody being sued by Microsoft for copyright and trademark infringement in federal court. I currently have a trademark copyright case in federal court. I've represented people who are suing businesses who took their money and didn't do what they were supposed to do. I have one of those cases right now. I've represented
Trump College.
That's an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, all different types of business things, especially like in the employment context. I've represented businesses and employees against businesses as well. I also do consumer protection things. I am of counsel for a service. I'm going to do all of their North Dakota cases. So therefore, when these creditors sue them when they don't pay their money, I'll represent them.
Do you represent the cases where someone is killed by police?
Okay, that one, that's wrongful death, but that actually is a more of a civil rights wrongful death. Now, the firm does those because I'm a partner in the firm, and I've not done one with this firm yet, but I have helped on those type of things. I will tell you that I do know Ben Crump from down here. He actually went to school with my former co-law clerk, and I've talked to Ben many times. I've passed things from him to other people, and now that I'm back in private practice, we may end up doing some things together. Now, just so you guys know, he makes so much more money doing personal injury and wrongful death than he ever would on these civil rights cases. So when people talk about how he's just making all his money in civil rights, now that's not where he makes his money. I mean, he had a judgment like a couple years ago, it's like $500 million for a personal injury case. So yeah,
$500 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Dina had a question here. She wants to ask a situation where a client can fire their lawyer and what happens next.
Okay. Client can always fire their lawyer, at least generally speaking. Now, if you hire somebody, you can fire them. Now, if you get free counsel, you have to go through a process to fire them, though. Let's just say you got a public defender, things of that sort, and they're trying to get you to see the light, and the light just isn't what you want to see, and you say, okay, you're fired. No, they actually have to file a motion to withdraw with the court, and the judge will likely have a hearing, bring you in, and see why. Because even in the motion, even if you say that, oh, well, the person fired me, you can't really put in there the things you talked about. So what ends up happening is that when you have this hearing, although the prosecutor will initially be there, you basically explain to the judge that you need to have the hearing without him. Okay. And then he'll ask him to step out. He'll step out. You'll have the hearing without him, and you'll explain to the judge. Now, you actually, at that point, then you will have to say some things as to the reason why. And that person will have to have a good reason why, especially if they're getting you for free. They can't just say, I don't want him anymore. No, you have to, have some type of an impasse as to the reason why. And then if you do, then it's okay. Well, we'll grant you a new lawyer. Now, that has happened, to most lawyers. And like, I had a guy where I was his 6th attorney because he kept firing him. Now, he kept firing him for a good reason, because they didn't believe him, because this stuff was hidden by the government. And it took me 100 and some hours worth of looking through about 250 gigabytes worth of stuff to find what I needed to find. And I actually have something on my YouTube channel about this, not his case, but stash house cases. And basically what a stash house case is, that there's this DEA agent who has spent his entire career, for the most part, dealing with 95, I think, percent Black and brown people. So what he does is that he pretends to be a disgruntled drug stash house worker. Okay. And he goes into the Black neighborhoods, whatever, and he tries to first buy some drugs off of somebody, buy some coke off somebody, crack or whatever. And then he kind of gets them in his good graces by, buying stuff from them. And then he tries to convince them, to rob this fictional stash house that he claims to have anywhere from 20 to 100 kilos of cocaine in it. Stash house doesn't exist. The drugs don't exist. Okay. And then one thing he'll do is he'll get them to sell him guns or whatever. And then he tells them they need like a crew of 4. There's only 2 people there, and they'll be able to, take all the drugs, and it'll be easy, this, that, and the other. So these guys get together, a little posse of 4, get their guns. And when they're on their way to this place that doesn't exist, DEA pulls up, gets them, arrest them all. Now, not only are they felon in possession, okay, so they get the federal felon in possession, they get them for a conspiracy to distribute those fictional drugs. That's 15-year minimum mandatory. Okay, so the majority of these people are getting anywhere from 20 years to life. Okay, 15-year minimum mandatory. So at least 15 years. Okay, plus the gun charge. So those actually have to be concurrent. I mean, they have to be consecutive. They have to be consecutive, so they can't run together. So that means you have to do the 15 years, then you have to do the 5 years, whatever you get for that too. So most of these folks are spending 20 plus years in prison, all right, for fictitious drugs. So now
get him out of that. I mean, that
you did well. I'm the only one I know of that has gotten one of those dismissed, and he ended up with just the gun charge because we couldn't get rid of that. But he had already been in for 3.5 years, so he ended up doing like another 9 months, and he got out. He was looking at spending almost the rest of his life in prison.
Wow.
But
that's not entrapment, though, Attorney King.
Right.
Okay. The courts have said it's not, because here's the thing: when you have the ability to say no, okay, at any point in time down the line, you have the ability to say no. Okay. So now, even if they were in the car, you were in the car with them, and you said, "Listen," just like Cuba Gooding did to Ice Cube and them, when he said no and they let him out, they wouldn't be able to do anything with him. Right. The other guys, they would. But once you actually say no, once you stop the enterprise, you're part of it, you're good. Now, that's generally. They still may try to charge you with some other things, okay? But as far as that thing, they should not be able to charge you with that. But if they do, it's very good case for you getting out if you have a really good lawyer. Doesn't mean you always will, because some courts do some funny things. But, yeah. So that's the one thing. The entrapment part of that has been litigated up and down, and there's been really no district that has said that that's truly entrapment. even though I thought it was, until I read the different decisions and their reasoning as to the reason why. And that's why I was explaining to you that because at any given point you could have said no, all the way up until you got to where they stopped you. If you got out the car on the corner and they went another 15 feet and stopped them there, you still might be good because you said no. At that point in time, it'd be difficult. They would try to scare you, but it would be difficult. Doesn't mean that they couldn't get you, but it would be difficult for them to get you.
I'm pretty sure you see some wild cases like that.
Man, we're talking with attorney Percy King, out of Florida, and we're just asking questions left and right, right and left. All right.
And he's giving us some good information. Good information.
Wow.
So, attorney King, I'm going to read something that it's just one little sentence. Tell me what you think about it, okay? Nothing is more expensive than a cheap lawyer.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. That when the guy told me that he had somebody that he could hire for $2,000, and I was just like, yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of years in prison, and all that money that you miss out from actually being at home working. I mean, you just think about it. Every year, even if you make minimum wage, you still miss out on a lot of money. That is the thing that when people say, "Oh, well, I got this lawyer; they'll do it for less." Go ahead then. That's even. Let's just say, even if I was at the point where I, needed some money, you just can't really do that. You can't afford to do that, which is an interesting way of putting it. But you can't really afford to do that because then you'll be stuck undervalued, and it's bad enough for Black attorneys as it is. And when you look at somebody who has the background that I've had in order to be able to get to where I am, even our own people quite often try to discount us no matter, what your background is. And, I explained to you what my background is. And, I mean, most people that know me would be like, yeah, you're one of the smartest guys I've ever met. But you'll get some of our own people who would still rather have somebody without melanin to be their lawyer. And I laugh at them because that person will tell you I'm much better than them. But then it's too late. So, it's interesting. Like the partners that I have now, they're 4 white guys. And 2 of them are younger than me, but 2 of them are older. One's like 70 and the other's probably just maybe about 4 or 5 years older than me. But unfortunately, unless you have situations like that, or ones that have been, Black attorneys who've been out there for a long time and people have just decided that they're going to trust them. Unless you have a situation like that, you're not going to get the people to come to you who can actually afford you. With the group I have now, folks go to the website and they know they have to pay. So it's nothing when I explain to them, yeah, you have to, give me $10,000, up front. You have to give me $2,500 up front in order to even, me to write a letter. You have to give me this in order to do that. And a lot of people who look like us just, won't necessarily do it. But when they see you with a group that does not look like you, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I think you're worth it. And it's sad, but it's what we deal with.
Zell, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a question. So you've been making several references to movies and television shows. So is there a particular movie or a television show that kind of gets it right? And when you watch it, you're like, that's more accurate as opposed to other shows. Like, you know that when you watch it, you're like, they get what we go through and what we're dealing with, whether it's, the cases or the type of work or what have you.
Everybody gets something wrong. And it's not that they necessarily get it wrong. It's because for dramatic effect, they allow certain things to happen. Like, when you watch Law and Order, there's things that they get right, but then there's things that they ask leading questions when they can't ask those questions. They are argumentative. There's a lot of objections that don't actually happen because they need this person to say this in order to get to that part of the script or in order for dramatic effect. I can say that some of the stuff in the background of the practice, I really liked. And of course, there would be things that, they went, too far, and some of the judges would be like, yeah, you'd be locked up for it, held in contempt. There's a lot of things that go on like that, but the practice I really liked. I haven't necessarily revisited it an awful lot since I've, been, a lawyer, because a lot of stuff happened beforehand. But I just remember when I think back and I was like, yeah, they got a lot of things, pretty correct. And then there's some shows that are just kind of like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, you couldn't do any of that stuff. You just couldn't. I look at some of the old shows and stuff, even though I planned my classes at undergrad at Indiana University around Perry Mason and Matlock. I planned my classes around them. I did.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I did. And I took a nap afterwards, but I watched it every day. But Perry Mason, as far as the things that you can do, a lot of the stuff was just kind of like ridiculous. Matlock was worse. Some of the things, his rambling and stuff, most of the stuff you just couldn't do. And I sit there and I'm just like, I can't watch it as a lawyer. I just kind of watch it as somebody who wants to be entertained. Because I had to just laugh, like, you couldn't do none of that garbage. And he's just like talking and he's like,
yeah. Hey, man, that was Opie Taylor's father anyway, man. He should have been on there. That's Opie Taylor's father.
Okay.
Get out.
Because I asked that also because I just started watching How to Get Away with Murder because I think it's on Netflix now, and I'm like, interesting. Like a lot of the things that they have you ever watched How to Get Away with Murder?
The first season I somewhat liked, but the thing is that she would never had first years. Nobody uses first years for anything, because you know nothing. You know absolutely nothing. Nobody would use, especially a seasoned lawyer like that. You would, as a third year, you'd be lucky for them to do anything with you. And some of the things that they did, because they had them doing things that was so far above their knowledge level. I don't care what school they went to, they would not have gone through that aspect of the law yet. Not even close.
Okay. What about the non-fictional stuff like Making of a Murderer?
Okay. Here's the thing. You also have to realize that there's a lot of things that they can't say on those shows. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that they can't really go into that they looked at in order to be able to do these things, that behind the scenes things. Because as a lawyer, you don't really want to tell them exactly what you did, or how you do things. Like I'll say general stuff like, I look at it this way, I look at these things, but I don't give you my step by step. I have step by step is how I do things, and it makes it so that you don't miss anything. So those things, they are interesting to me because I'm filling in the gaps of what they left out as to what I would have done, as to what they had to do in order to get to that next step. And those are the things that you all don't see. So you're getting a part of the picture, and the fact that it's even interesting to you because you're getting a part of the picture, that just means that they're doing their job well as far as in producing it. But no, they still can't tell you a lot of the stuff that they've done.
So I saw you kind of weighed in on that Ohio shooting, where that father shot the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
This guy is, of course, they didn't prosecute him because,
Yeah, I get it.
I thought you might have had another view.
You talking about the lack of melanin?
Yeah.
I mean, he's fortunate, and here's the thing: is that I wanted. There were some things that I thought about saying in that video that I just stopped short of saying, because you kind of want to be respectful to the family of the person being shot, especially when I look at everything. Once, we hear about certain things in the news. You heard that, there was no violence between, him and her. There was no history of any of those things.
Right.
They took, acid together. But, he didn't call and he wasn't like threatening, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I just found it interesting that the dad was sitting in the living room with a gun, because he wasn't knocking on the door that long. For the dad to have, gotten a gun and be sitting there ready to shoot him.
Right.
But there's something there that we don't know about.
And just like you said, they don't tell the whole truth.
Yeah, people don't tell the whole truth either. And him laughing with the police afterwards, I don't know about you, but guys, we can never determine what we would necessarily do in a situation, but I do believe that I wouldn't be laughing with the police after shooting somebody.
No, me either.
Unless you wanted them dead.
Yeah, unless you were relieved. Even a nervous laugh, I wouldn't do that. But everybody's different, and as you know, sometimes different cultures don't see life the way that we see life.
Yeah.
Isn't that the trip, though?
Attorney King, have there ever been instances where you didn't want to take a case and you just said flat out no to it?
Oh, I've said no to cases. Many. Here's the thing. Depending on the type of case it is, like if it's a civil case and you just look at it and be like, yeah, that's a garbage case, nothing. Then you just decline the case. You say, hey, go and ask somebody else, if they want it. Quite often we have to do the lawyer thing and basically explain to the person that, hey, this is just my opinion. Feel free to, get another opinion, about it and take it to somebody else, even though that they're going to look at it and be like, they might not even entertain speaking with them. And then, there's been, some criminal things where it's like, oh, yeah, I can't deal with them. I don't necessarily want that. And that's, when I was with the federal defender, you couldn't necessarily do that. Although I was able to do that once, that they said, okay, we understand, but that was a certain situation. But sometimes, a case will hit you in a certain way that you can't necessarily do it. I did have one time where, even though I didn't necessarily know the person, there was a case that I initially was given that because let's say I was a member of where the person worked. I was connected to where the person worked, and I knew a lot of the people that the person would know. And so I didn't necessarily think that it was appropriate for me to take the case. So I was able to decline that one.
Okay. Conflict of
So
interest.
let me play a little game with you real quick, all right?
Sure.
So you're the attorney. You're the prosecuting attorney at OJ's trial, okay? Is there anything you would have done different?
Now, I'm the defense or the prosecutor?
Prosecutor.
Okay. A prosecutor, all right. Well, there were a couple of things. Here's some things that I know that some other people don't know. There was a few days before that murder, there was a murder in the Miami area. And where entire group of people, my understanding is, at least from somebody who was in law enforcement down there, an entire group of people in the house were killed. And it was supposedly a house that OJ had and Nicole had been at, and they claimed that, there was over some drug stuff, this, that, and the other. And they claimed that they believed that there was some hitmen that actually took care of them and that OJ owed money, a bunch of different things of that sort.
Wow.
Things that we don't know about, which, would mean that, because I've always believed that more than one person committed that crime, because there was no way of, grabbing a person and really, killing them without them making a sound, unless there was two people doing it.
Right.
There was also a bloody fingerprint on the back gate that was not OJ's. Okay. And so there were things that were there that showed that it likely wasn't him. But here's one of the biggest things that they had that they messed up. They had the lady who supposedly saw him leaving from near the house in the car, driving kind of crazy, this, that, and the other, trying to get back home. But that evidence wasn't allowed in because she was all over the news talking about it. Okay. So one of the things that I would have done is I would have waited before charging him so that we could have cleared some of the things up. I would have had him try on the glove. I would have had all those things happen. I would have tied up a lot of things. When they did not do that, Johnny waited on that on purpose. They looked, it's like that's one of the things I would have done. You look at the evidence that they have and say, okay, does that glove fit? They haven't even tried it on. That glove's not going to fit when he tries it on because they're going to have him try it on. Even if they don't, I will. Okay. So they had all these different things that they didn't necessarily do. But here's what you have to understand. This is, a state, assistant district attorney. Now, they're good, but still, to go up against the type of lawyers that they went up against, they rushed that case too much. So I wouldn't have rushed it. And they were not prepared for the lawyers they went up against. They went up against the most expensive lawyers in the damn country. If you do that, you have to take your time. You have to take your time now, unless there was, a speedy trial issue. I would have tried to delay that thing, to get everything in line. But they thought that they had him because the police was so sure that it had to be him because, there was a little bit of abuse. All right, just because somebody has a small fight, not a fight where the person got really messed up, it doesn't mean that they're going to come up and stab them. Okay, it really doesn't mean that. And then plus, stabbing somebody is a brutal thing. Most people can't stab somebody.
That's personal.
People can shoot somebody, but most people can't stab somebody. That's a hard thing to do. Even if they broke into your house, it would be difficult for most people to stab an intruder.
Zale.
You'd be afraid to.
You hear that, Gina?
Yeah.
Hey, Percy, the guy to your right, he just did a TV one. He's an actor, by the way. Stuntman.
Okay. Hey, y'all gotta send me your stuff so I can watch him.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Maybe we can do the story of your life, and I can be you. Boom.
All right, Zell.
I got one more for you, Percy.
Some active thing too. So hey,
I got one more for you, Percy.
Yeah.
We're gonna flip it over. You're the defense attorney.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me on the R. Kelly case.
Woo. Can you touch that right now?
Just throwing stones.
Well, no. It's nothing to be mad about because I looked at some of the stuff. Here's the thing: when you're dealing with somebody that has so many witnesses out there against you, it's real different. And like I said, you don't get a chance to depose them. You have no idea what they're going to say until they actually say it. That's the problem with federal trials. It's so difficult to prepare for them. And the only thing you have is that person's word. So you have to really question them. I would have probably had 100 pages worth of questions for him. And we would have had to go down the line and we would have had to have him answer them over and over and over again. So I knew exactly what I was dealing with, because that's the problem. You don't know what you're dealing with because they only give you just enough to try to make the person plead guilty. That's what they give you. And that's it. So in dealing with him, that's what I would have done.
Okay. Short, simple, and to the point. We're talking to attorney Percy A. King. He's from the city of Gary, Indiana, like most of us are. So sorry, Zell. And we're just having some legal time here, okay? Let's take a break real quick and just throw up a spot. There's a guy He from Gary too. Jamie McGraw got the show. This is why we're here. Let's check this commercial out. We'll be right back.
He's creating a platform for everyone to come and tell their story of how they turned tragedy into triumph. And everyone has a story to tell. Get ready to be motivated and inspired on That's Why I'm Here. So get ready, get ready, get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, your talk show host, Jamie McGraw.
Hi, I'm Jamie McGraw from That's Why I'm Here.
Yes.
That's here. Jamie McGraw. He has another live studio audience taping September the 18th. If you're in the area of Illinois, Indiana area, go check it out. All right, it's an experience you don't want to miss. All right, we're talking with attorney Percy King out of Florida. He does all kind of law, and he's getting ready to get into. Well, he's already into his sports law too. Agent. I'm sorry. Zell, you had a question.
I do. So normally when you're watching a court case, even if it's, like it's a real live court case situation, and if you're on trial, a lot of times your attorneys don't allow you to take the stand. Is there a particular reason why you shouldn't take the stand in your own defense? And are there any situations that you would suggest a client take the stand in their own defense?
Okay. Well, the first thing is that attorney can't stop you from taking the stand. That is you as a defendant. That is, your decision to make. Now, we will tell you, don't you get your ass up there, because basically they're going to tear you apart. One thing is that they're ready. They want you to take the stand because they're salivating, because for the most part, they're going to be things, even if you are innocent, that they have that will make you look guilty. Okay. Lots of things, because the one reason why we tell you to remain silent is because you will say some things that will make you look bad, or you don't have a 100% memory. So they will ask you questions and you will say the wrong answer, all right, to something like you were somewhere that you actually weren't, this, that, and the other, and they will catch you in a lie, and all of a sudden in front of the jury, you look guilty because you lied about all these different things, but you really didn't lie, you just didn't remember. So you just keep your mouth closed. So it's always the defendant's choice. But what we try to do is, like, if we believe that we're winning, there's no reason for you to take the stand. So we'll tell you, listen, can't guarantee you that you're winning, but they really haven't proven anything. Now, if you take the stand, they might actually be able to prove it, because, and especially if you're really guilty, oh, you have no business really taking a stand. But sometimes you get to the point where they kind of, there's things that you need to explain. If there's things that they have kind of, gotten you on, and they may not necessarily be true, but they have been able to use their witnesses to make it look bad for you, and you might have to explain it. So they need to hear from your words, from your mouth, why you did this, where you were actually at. Not just because, some witness say you were somewhere else and they kind of cross-examined them and kind of tore them apart, but you need to be able to explain certain things. I will tell you that we really would rather you never, ever take the stand, because, if we're doing, great and they don't have enough on you at that point in time, that's on them, because they have to make the case. But you don't want to end up making the case for them, because you have a guy to get on the stand. Because here's one thing that is true about far too many defendants. A lot of defendants believe that they are smarter than they are. And they believe that they can convince the jury of things. They believe that they can outsmart, the prosecuting attorney, all those different things. And most of those things can be further from the truth. And a lot of things is that people it's almost as if they're watching something other than themselves. They will say something, they believe that they said something specific, but they said something totally different. They believe that they said, I'm 4 years old, and what they said was that I don't know. Over here, there was a blue horse, and it's like they're saying something totally different than what they actually thought that they said. Have you ever spoken to somebody and they were wondering why you didn't do something? It's because they didn't ask you to actually do that. They said something totally different. And that happens so much in cases. And I was like, dude, wait till I play that back. You didn't say none of that stuff. You said you were going to say this, and you didn't say any of those things that you thought that you said. So, you're thinking that, this is going well, and nah, man, it's not. It's like, oh, but you didn't look like. I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to, I'm supposed to have a poker face. They're not supposed to know that I'm sitting over there dying like, oh, dude, you just, I did all this stuff, and you just
put all this shoe leather in your mouth.
Right. I spent all this time. I spent 200 hours getting ready, and you go up there and you
something crazy.
Say something really crazy. So that's how that goes. So whenever somebody says that my lawyer went up, no, the lawyer just told you please don't do this, and you made the decision because the judge has to ask the defendant, do you want to testify? And the defendant has to say no. So you may see on TV where the lawyer says that he's not going to testify. Now sometimes that will happen, but normally the judge will also ask, Mr. So and so, is it your choice not to testify?
Okay.
Wow.
So,
Attorney King, is there an opportunity for someone who's been convicted using a public defender to turn around and have their case looked at again? Is it possible for them to do that?
It depends on what you are actually talking about. Here's what happens when it comes to, like, let's just say it's a state case. Okay, if it's a state case, what you can do is you have to go through the regular appellate process through the state, through the Court of Appeals, through the Supreme Court, and if you don't get what you need from there, it actually then goes to the federal court, and that's actually, I believe, a 2254, which is you're asking the district court to actually go through like the evidence. You end up having a hearing to see if it was ineffective assistance of counsel. Now, at that point in time, if it is granted, and you have to do it timely, if it's actually granted, then the judge will actually have a hearing. They'll go through, the different information, and, they may call the lawyer in there, and there may be questions and things of that sort. And then you go through their process, and then if, he grants, that, then you kind of go from there. And then it may go up to the Court of Appeals and then see if, they grant you a new trial. Now, if it's on a federal level, like I have actually been the lawyer who actually did an appeal for someone who, as far as I was concerned, there was ineffective assistance of counsel. It's actually still an ongoing thing because I went to the federal defender's office after the initial appeal, because normally for ineffective assistance of counsel, that's not the initial thing on appeal. You have to go through your regular appellate process. Then after it comes back from a regular appeal, it will go back to the district court, and you can then file a 2255 motion for ineffective assistance of counsel, and to see if you can actually have a hearing. So it went through my normal appeal. I was the appellate counsel, and the court was like, yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff there that you kind of messed up, but it still really needs to be heard in a 2255 as opposed to the initial appeal, because it has to be like beyond ridiculously bad in order for them to hear it on a regular appeal. So it is actually, that case is now on a 2255 to see if the district court is going to grant them a hearing for that. So it's not just that they had a public defender. The the standard is actually really, really high in order to actually for there to be ineffective assistance of counsel. It can't just be that they did a bad job. They just have to not live up to the standard of basically a competent attorney, which is very low bar. Because it's, especially the federal cases are so difficult that they're not going to get everything right. They can mess up several things as long as it doesn't go to a certain level, and that is going to be different for every federal circuit. Like down here in Florida with 11th Circuit, which is the states of Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. Okay, so the 11th Circuit is the most conservative circuit. So most people will tell you that it's really difficult for defendants, for as criminal, and they're really kind of. Some people will say they're partial to businesses when it comes to civil stuff. So it's real difficult to get those overturned. Now, I've seen a couple happen, but it's really difficult. And there's one thing I will tell you about the public defender thing. Depending on where you are, as to what you believe your skill level is. On the federal level, it is not easy to become an assistant federal defender because they still, for the most part, it's a 6-figure job. So, like in Tampa, I mean, there'd be 30 people to apply for one position, and 20 of the people will have 15 years of experience and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cases up under their belt in order to be able to get that job. So federal stuff is very different, and you can't come right out of school and do to be a federal assistant defender. You actually have to have been either a regular state public defender and have many years and done well, or had a federal clerkship, come from one of the best schools, Harvard or something like that, and then you can actually get. Because I mean, I didn't get mine until after 4 years of federal clerkship and over 4 years in private practice, and I was actually on the CJA panel in Jacksonville and in Bismarck, North Dakota as well. So I've had many cases in order to even be able to get to that point. So there are some really good public defenders depending on where you are. Now, there's some, when it comes to state stuff, some of the state ones, if you get somebody right out of school, oh yeah, they may have no idea. They may have 100, 200 cases, and you may not have, their full attention because they can't give it to you. So that very well may happen, but I can tell you in Florida, even the state ones, we had some of the best ones in the country who would try a case, and you do better having one of them than somebody in private practice unless you had certain people.
Okay. Zell, you had a question?
I do. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, how good was Thurgood Marshall as an attorney, and why?
He's my frat brother too, so I'm alpha.
Okay.
So, here, Thurgood Marshall was beyond good. He was one of my like slogan is exceptional, and he was definitely exceptional. And the reason why he was exceptional is because, one, he knew that he had to be that way in order to even be seen in court with white people. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. He had to, go above and beyond. He had to outsmart them. He had to know what they were thinking way ahead of time. He had to prepare for judges being, racist. He had to prepare for all those things. And you realize that he won all of his, I think he lose one? He may have lost one case when it comes to the Supreme Court, but he kept winning. Mm-hmm. You don't win unless you're pretty damn exceptional.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Those cases are some of the hardest ones to win because people don't know that the Supreme Court, they only take like 100 and something cases a year, period. Doesn't make a difference if your case is appealed at that time. It can be a great case. 4 of the justices have to vote to accept your case. Okay, so when they vote and they accept your case, in order to, get there, then you have to prepare. It's so structured. That's why most lawyers don't even practice in federal court at all, because it is so structured. And I like the structure because I know it from, being with the judges. So I like it much better than state court. So people come to me all the time. Like you'll see, one of the lawyers who does a bunch of stuff with Ben, she's running for Congress now. And she calls me quite often, when it comes for federal stuff, because she knows that I know the stuff. So it's, he was beyond even exceptional. He's probably one of the best to ever do it.
There you go.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to be quick. So, Attorney King, let's say, I'm trying to word this. There's a case, and the person is told that, okay, if there's conflict, it has to go in front of a judge to determine whether you're going to go to trial. And let's say the judge is like, no, I'm going to throw it out because for something flimsy. And then the statute, I guess you call it statute of limitations, run out. And then you find out like maybe it was just a deal made or something. Can you go back to that, to file that case, to go to court after the statute of limitations is up?
Okay. Here's the way that the statute of limitations, and then there's a statute for the most part of repose, which means that no matter what, it's done. Whenever you actually have a case and it gets thrown out, you need to appeal it. If you don't appeal it, and you try to come back after the statute of limitations has run, you are what they call SOL. Because once the statute has run, what will happen is that you try to refile the case, then they're going to actually file a motion to dismiss it because the statute of limitations has run. Now, when you say and you find that a deal is made, one of the most difficult things to do, and one of the things that will get you in front of a disciplinary committee as a lawyer, is saying that a judge did something that they really should not have done, and not having 100% of the evidence where you can actually have the videotape of it, and you can put it in front of the judge and put it in front of the Supreme Court in your state, because you're likely going to end up in front of a disciplinary committee, and the Supreme Court is the ultimate one who actually makes the decision as to whether or not you get disciplined. Saying something that a judge has done wrong, that people stay away from that. Even if they know that the judge did something, even if they know the judge is funny, you won't say anything. That is one of the things that a lot of people don't know, is that when they say, well, why did you say something? Because I like working. I like having a license. You can't say things like that. You can't, disparage a judge. You can't even say, oh man, this Supreme Court judge, they're stupid, or they're this, they're that. Ooh.
Have you ever experienced somebody saying that?
Oh yeah, and I've read the disciplinary stuff afterwards too. So yeah, I mean, and we've had them, to say it, and then they end up being suspended or getting disbarred. So you kind of have to have the proof, and still you want somebody else to do it instead of you, because it's just not something you want to do.
So then have somebody else do it.
Well, no, I want you to think about it this way. Former President Trump, he appointed more judges probably than any three of the last presidents combined. Quite a few of them, the American Bar Association, most of them actually said that they weren't qualified to be judges. Okay. But yet still you say something about one of them, even when they're making decisions that, folks may question, they have to question it in certain ways. There's things that you can't necessarily say. I mean, because there were some people who had, never represented anybody, who didn't even really practice law, but they had law degrees, and they were up to be a federal judge. And in no way, shape, or form would any of the bar committees ever, say that somebody like that is qualified. They just can't, because you haven't done the things that are necessary to qualify you. You haven't represented anybody. You haven't even been in court. So how can you then be a judge? Just because you have a law degree doesn't mean that you're qualified. And that was one of the things that people wanted from me, is they said, oh, you qualify, you should be a federal judge. You're the black guy that we're kind of counting on. Don't necessarily want that anymore. We'll see. I mean, I'm 52, and I can say that I am qualified. From the 4 years of federal clerkship, all the years of private practice, and being an assistant federal defender, I know. I mean, I have a background in medicine, business, and law. I basically have an advanced degree in all three. And with my scope of practice, I can understand anything that happens, from patent law to medical stuff. I wouldn't be in their board. I've had to explain these things to judges and things of that sort. So I am qualified. So if I ever got appointed, I'd be qualified. But there are a lot of people who may be on the bench now who otherwise don't have the qualifications that the American Bar Association, or even that law professors would tell you they should have.
Know quite a few of those. Here's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was at my child support hearing and it didn't go in my favor. I was so mad at the judge, and he knew it too. What would have happened if I told the judge I disagree with your ruling, and what if it was your daughter?
Oh,
okay. Well, is this a male or a female?
This is a Facebook user.
It's a female.
It's a female. Okay. Well, here's the thing. For the most part, unless they don't have lawyers, they have no business talking to the judge. If you are represented, you don't speak. The lawyer speaks for you. All right, and the judge will remind you of that quickly. However, if you are in a situation where you're not represented, at the most you can say, oh, see, she had a lawyer, the person had a lawyer, so yeah, they can't speak. So no, if she spoke, she could have been held in contempt of court, and until they actually write the order, it's not decided. So the judge can say, you know what, I changed my mind, and make it worse. Okay. So I've seen that happen. So you can do that. So what I will tell this young lady, in order to make them feel a little bit better and understand it a little bit more, is that although you believe it should have gone a certain way, and it may be the way that it should have gone, all right, quite often, lay persons don't really understand the law and what has happened, especially when you have people coming to you, friends or whatever, and saying, oh, well, this happened to me, so this should happen to you. It's the same thing we get when it comes to criminal law. The jailhouse lawyers trying to tell them that, well, this happened in my case. And most of the time they're lying. Okay. And then even if it did happen in their case, everything is factual dependent based upon your case. Okay. So there may be some things in your case that is different than another case, such that you don't have the same outcome. All right. And also, what people have to understand when it comes to child support, it is supposed to be for support for the child. It is not supposed to be paying you back. It is not supposed to make you be able to live. The way that I see it, and I know a lot of guys who are also working on things of the sort, we believe that quite often it is unconstitutional to a certain degree, because they can make a person who is not the actual biological father pay for the rest of a child's life because a woman gave the wrong address and they never got served, and they became the de facto father because they missed the court date. Okay. That makes no sense to me. A person to be paying for a child that's not theirs. But here's the thing. What you have to understand is that that's not a federal court thing, because it's not because it's family law, it's not in federal court's jurisdiction. So we're trying to figure out how to get it to go there because it is something that is an equal protection issue. All right. So, but when it comes to this young lady, you may feel it should have gone a certain way, but I mean, I would kind of like to know a little bit more as to what it was, not to say she's wrong or anything like that, but just to give right reasonings why. Doesn't have to be exactly, what happened, with her, but there may be reasonings that I can make her feel better by saying these are some of the reasons why that could happen.
So I apologize to the Facebook user. Okay, go ahead, Gina.
Well, before we close out, I did want to talk just to mention Attorney King's YouTube channel, which is I See by Percy King. So you can go on there. There's a lot of different scenarios that he talks about, a lot of different cases that are out there that he even comments on. So take a quick screenshot, go and follow, and just support, because I listened
Subscribe.
and subscribe. I listened to quite a few of them, and they were very interesting. Very interesting.
And so was this show, and so was our guest, Miss Attorney Percy King. Man, we appreciate you coming through, hanging out with us, and giving us some legal advice. There's a lot more questions that we have, and we invite you to come back again when you get a chance and answer some of these. Okay, Facebook user, we're apologize we ran out of time. Okay, so we can't get the rest of your question answered, but we'll get it answered at some point. All right. As who got me up loud? Anyway, as we go around normally every day, let everybody get a final word in. Okay, let's start with you, Zell.
All right. I'm gonna keep it brief. We talked about Attorney King being accomplished in nuclear medicine and then going into practicing law. So it's never too late to follow your passions and your dreams in order to be where you ultimately want to see yourself in life. So dare to dream and go for those dreams.
There you go. Attorney, give us something to go
on. Well, one of the things that I'm doing with the YouTube channel is I'm trying to talk about some everyday topics and some things that people don't know about. I got one thing on there about food stamp fraud, and because I've had many of those cases as well. And then I'm going to be talking about current events. As you saw, I talked about the Ohio shooting. I'm trying to right a problem that we have, and one of the problems in our community is that a lot of people end up in court because of ignorance of the law. So I'm trying to help with that as much as I can. So folks can go to my channel, whatever. You'll be able to see some of those things. I'm gonna try to put something up every week, and sometimes a couple times a week.
Wow. Attorney King, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. You have really enlightened me to some things regarding the law. I like what you just made the comment about. A lot of our people don't take the time to learn about law, even if it's something common or not really big. Start trying to find out different things about the law before you really start putting your mouth, I want to say, on lawyers and courts and things of that nature, because just in this hour and a half, we're finding out there's so many things that we really don't know. And there's so much behind the scenes, but to us, it looks like, it looks completely different.
I mean, I agree with Marcy. I think we need a life class on this stuff, because there's some things that we go and hurt ourselves on a lot of times because we don't know. And and sometimes we pass it on. We pass that same information that you just lost on to the next person.
Yep.
And so again, we need a life class, or maybe it needs to be something that our culture needs to include in in the schools, teaching.
Hey, Now you have no excuse. Go to Attorney Percy YouTube channel, IC, and learn some things. It's right there for you, free of charge. He's giving free legal advice. What more can you ask for?
He said he said, look, he got that look like free. Hold on, hold on.
That stuff on there is free. It is free. And you know, the IC said the blind man to the deaf dog with the quadriplegic trainer. If you look at that, it's based upon a lot of people giving advice. They have no damn idea what they're talking about. So you got a blind man saying IC to a deaf dog. And then the trainer is quadriplegic. So if the dog is deaf and the trainer can't move, how is he going to train anybody? So basically, that's what that's about. It's everybody knows. You see the stuff online.
That sounds like some of the past guests we've had on. I could have said that. My fault, guests. Y'all
back
tried.
up.
Right?
Back up.
But I wanted to really talk about staying focused. Okay, you know, you put your energy into things that will actually grow you. And too many people freely give their energy to negative thoughts, negative people, and negative situations. Have a plan B sometimes, okay? Maybe even plan C, because unexpected changes are most difficult to handle when we don't have a backup plan. And remember, when people do try to discredit you, just remember who you are and raise your head high and keep on grinding. Keep your eyes on the prize, all right? Attorney King, we appreciate you, man, for hanging out with us and staying true to what you do, man. We appreciate that. Most definitely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you all.
We will see you guys tomorrow on DopelivenTV Live, all right? And that's about it.
Au revoir.